What's your most difficult deal that you've ever done so far across those 13,000 units?
Oh, man. I'll give you a small example and then a larger example.
Sure.
Small example. I buy this house. I'm watching all the flipping shows. You know, the flipping TV shows are
Love
always
those
on,
shows,
right?
yeah.
So I'm watching the flipping shows and I'm like, I'm going to flip this house. And this giant duplex comes for sale. It's like 4,000 square feet, top bottom duplex. I mean, there's like literal like blood spatters on the ceiling from like shooting up like
What?
drug. It was
Really?
wild. But like, I mean, nasty house, but good bones, good structure, amazing view of the town that I lived in. And I get the thing for like 45 grand. I'm like, this is gonna be, I'm gonna make so much money. I'm like, I'm gonna put maybe 40 into it. I'm gonna sell it for 200. I'm gonna make 100 grand. Like that was my thinking going into it. I go to a hard money lender, which these are companies that lend money to house flippers. I go to a hard money lender and the guy I'd worked with before and I knew, he's like, yeah, no chance. I'm not gonna lend that. And I was like, but here's all my numbers. He's like, no, it's going to be way more expensive than that. It's not worth that much money. And you know, my answer was to him, like, I didn't say this literally, but in my head, I was like, screw you, man. Watch me. And I went and like talked to like 20 different lenders, found one guy willing to do it. I go in there. It didn't take 40 grand to fix up the property. It took more like 80 grand to fix the property up. So now I'm in for like 120. And I did most of the work myself. A whole year of my life was working on this project. And my wife and I would work every day. The thing I put on the market for 180. Instead of 200, okay, we'll go a little cheaper. It doesn't sell at 180, not 170, not 160, not 150, not 140, not 130, not 120, 115 sells at. So I lose money on this deal. I mean, I lose probably 20 grand, call it. And that was the hardest. I mean, it was a year of my entire life and to lose money. I could have literally like, laid on the couch and done nothing and made more money watching like soap operas. Like, but the reason I love that story is had I kept it a duplex, it would have cash flowed over $1,000 a month back then. It would be probably $2,000 or $3,000 a month today. Had I kept it as a duplex, I wouldn't have done as much work. It would have been probably more like, you know, $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 worth of work. It would have been a great duplex. Today, here we are 8, 9 years after I sold that, maybe 10 years after I sold that property. It's probably worth $700,000.
No.
Yeah. And so the lesson learned is like, yeah, flipping's fun. Like it's cool to take a house, flip it, make some money. But if you just hang on to real estate, just hang on. It is incredibly hard to lose if you can just hold on. And I could have held on just fine. So that was the hardest deal I've done then. And then I got a $72 million apartment complex in Texas that we were making maybe $1 million in cash flow. And then the government's just like, oh, by the way, taxes are now $1 million higher. So it's just like, it's not quite $1 million, but it just wipes out so much cash flow. So now we're just like, okay, well, we got to figure this out. So now we're looking at doing midterm rentals, like traveling nurse stuff inside of it, maybe doing some breaking up apartments into like co-living, sort of like rent by the room. We call them micro apartments, like trying to figure out when the taxes go up, how do we deal with it? How do we figure it out? And again, 20 years from now, not worried about that property, but right now, challenge.
Is there any recourse on that where you could go and say, actually, we don't think our property should be assessed at this?
Yeah, it's a great question. And yeah, everybody can do this, whether it's your primary residence, whether it's an investment property, you can challenge a tax assessment for sure. And we did, and you fight for it. And every area's got a little different process. And we did fight for it. And I think we got a little bit reduction on that. Insurance also went up at the same time, and that sucks, but that's the game we're playing. And so
now, I'm curious because I get these in the mail all the time.
Yeah.
These mailers that say, we think you're overpaying on your property taxes. Hire us that we could fight it and bring it down, and we'll get a percentage of the savings.
Yeah.
Is that a scam?
That's a great question. I get them as well.
Yeah.
I've never hired one of them. I would guess this. It's probably not a scam. It's probably just it's probably a whole lot easier than people think to do it. And so they can just go do it themselves. Kind of like that business filing thing that right now everyone's supposed to do. You know what I'm talking about? Like right now there's some I mean, obviously, people are listening to this in the future, but there's some we have to file some business thing. The government changed the rule.
Yes.
It's like one paper. It's free to do it online. You can do it in 5 minutes. But there's like a ton of companies right now that'll do it for you for $500. And it's like, don't do that.
It's a horrible scam. So, so get this. So our accountant emailed us saying, hey, you got to fill this out by like January 15th.
Yep.
Fine. I Google it. I go through the form. And I realize at the very end, it says, perfect. Submit this for $179. And I realized, wait a second. I clicked on the first link. It was a sponsored link. And this company has the same website. And they charge you $180. And then I just went back and found the actual website. did it for free.
Yeah. Isn't that wild?
The same amount of time.
I want to make sure I sign this form.
Yeah.
I don't know what this form is, but does it save money? What is the...
I feel like, no.
So all it is it's the government's trying to collect information from small businesses who make under $5 million a year for an LLC or an S corporation. Yeah, it's basically just a statement of who you are, how you make your money.
But it doesn't make you any money.
No.
I think I remember doing that.
Yeah.
You're fine. Yeah.
Now everyone knows I make less than $5 million.
Dude, you just got called out.
No, no, it's just in one of your companies. Your other companies are fine. This is in your like hair care product company. Yeah.
Okay, what's interesting is every time I hear someone talk about real estate, I'm like, this sounds easy. It sounds very doable. And then I always take it to the nth degree.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, if I were to go all in on real estate, what does that look like? And then I start getting nervous because I'm like, if I buy all of my real estate in Las Vegas, what's my like meteor plan? If let's just say Lake Mead dries up and then they can't source water. What happens to Las Vegas? If you buy all in California and then there's another California wildfire, or there's an earthquake, or if you buy all in like the Midwest and you have a tornado, or what if like government then in 20 years is like, you know what, we are going to develop ultra high density living and it's going to be super cheap and super affordable because maybe we actually have like a government that's willing to do something like that. And then everyone moves into that. And then there's no reason for real estate. Maybe they deregulate and then all of these people go and they build all of these super cheap, actual affordable homes that people can move into rather than mansions that everyone's been developing over the past 20 years. Like what is the I would say macro threat being a real estate investor?
Well, let me first ask you this. Podcasting. When I think about going all in on podcasting and YouTube, I'm like, oh, but what if AI takes my place in 5 years from now and there's no longer podcasting and YouTube anymore? What if my entire career that I build is just in the toilet in 5 years because I went into something and then it got disrupted? That could happen, right? But it's not stopping you guys from doing this. It's not stopping me from doing it.
Well, it depends because like right now, podcasting is kind of like the thing for like, that's like our job, you know, and we can pivot, but something like real estate, you're using your capital to then buy something that in the event of, you know, this meteorite plane or whatever could be completely worthless.
Sure.
And so there's so many other avenues. Like you could just invest in like international index funds, like Grant loves to do to get 3% returns. Or you can buy, you know, like US-based index funds. Like there's so many different choices. And real estate sounds very appetizing, but then I'm also concerned because that is also, you can be subjected to macroeconomic things that just happen.
For sure. I'm just trying to alleviate the fear decision or the decision making based on fear of saying, hey, what if something goes wrong? Maybe I shouldn't do it because of that, right? One of my favorite lines, I don't know where I first heard it, but no risk it, no biscuit. Like if you don't risk, you're not going to get the rewards, right? Real estate, like, you could go and get 3% returns in some like very ultra safe thing. That's fine. And if you are ultra rich or you have a lot of money and you're not in the building phase, that maybe is fine. But for most people, when they're getting into real estate investing, like that are listening to the show, they're not sitting on $10 million of capital that just want to like, what do I do with this money, right? They're probably sitting on 50 grand. Okay, 50 grand at 3% per year, they're never getting rich off that, right? So you have to take risk in order to get the biscuit, if that makes sense. So on one regard, there's that. There is diversification though, of course. Like I don't like putting all my eggs in one real estate basket. I can't remember.
Or something.
Different location. I mean, we're in 20 states. I'm across different areas. Even like forget Open Door Capital, which is my large company. I'm also doing my own personal like real estate. I have a few small properties here and there. I got a couple condos here in Maui that I do on Airbnb. I've got a property I just closed actually 2 days ago in Florida that I'm going to do rent by the room, which is a cool strategy we can maybe talk about. I got another one in Atlanta I'm closing on. So I've got different areas with different strategies. Now, you know, the more you diversify, the less expertise you have. So there's a danger there. We got to be careful not to get too wild and crazy because the money in real estate today is in like being world class. Like if you're not world class, I would say the same thing with podcasting and YouTube and all that. Like you got to be world class. You can't just put up a video and hope to get 1 million views. You can't just buy a house and hope to make a ton of money. Like if you're not good, then you're going to struggle. Mediocrity doesn't really have a place anymore in the business world in America.